everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Marla Martenson, and I have a really fascinating guest for us today. His name is Joe Petrosky, and he has a fascinating life story. When I gave him a mediumship reading recently, because I'm a developing medium and I'm practicing, and Joe is nice enough to be a guinea pig, he started telling me about his story, and I said, oh my gosh, I have to have you on the show. And I'm holding my Salem, Massachusetts witch cat here. I got this cat last year when I went on my bucket list trip to Salem with my shaman Riz Mirza and 11 ladies, and I got this cat at the Ouija board museum. And everybody, Joe said, "Is your cat always sitting next to you?" Because the cat was sitting back here, and people think it's a real cat, and isn't it? I'll bet there's some magic going on behind those eyes. Right. So, Joe, introduce yourself. Let us know the magic that you have going on in your life and your magical story.
Okay. Well, I am basically living about 25 or 26 years past my expiration date. I was sent home to die in 1999 with 9 of the best doctors treating the condition I had said that I had less than a year to live and that I would probably end up taking my own life. And when the Mayo Clinic, when they called to do the conference for me, I was like, all right. Hey, thank God, finally. And the first question that they asked my doctor was, could we have 8 pieces of the cadaver? And my doctor said, well, he's alive. You can ask him if you'd like. And they couldn't believe that I was actually even cognizant because the blood tests and all of my records were so bad. They couldn't believe that I could even talk. And luckily, I ended up meeting this 35th generation Shaolin master.
But wait, we got to stop there because what was wrong with you? People are going to say, well, what with,
So I was sick for over 9 years. For 6.5 years, it affected my job. And for over 3.5, I couldn't work at all. And so what happened is they called me at the end a universal reactor. And so everything that I ate, everything that touched my skin, and everything that I breathed, my body tried to kill, saw it as an invader. And so with that, what would happen is when I would breathe certain chemicals, and pretty much everyday chemicals, hair mousse, car exhaust, fertilizer, dryer sheets, what would happen is I would lose the ability to see. There would be no way that I'd be able to tell you that you're a human being, that that's a cat, that that's a picture of a marketplace or Paris or something like that. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. And I would see this little bouncing yellow thing, and I'm like, I think that's my daughter, because she had blonde hair when she was a little girl. But they moved the art in my house, and I would go by memory because I couldn't tell you what I was seeing. And it made me say horrible, disgusting things to people I loved and cared about. And they didn't know how to stop it. And the doctors, there was 2 really good doctors at the end that were working independently of each other. And I would go to one, and he would say, I want to do ABC. And this one would go, I want to do A, B, and D. And I would go home and I'd think, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do A and B. And because neither one of them wanted the full responsibility, because they literally were afraid that the next treatment might cause me to die. And that's what ended up happening is they said, I went to the one, he says, hey, Joe, he says, we only have one more treatment to give you, but if it doesn't work, it's going to kill you. And the other doctor, he was much more positive. He says, Joe, he says, we only have one more treatment to give you, but if it doesn't work, it's going to hasten your death. So I had to go home. And, the Social Security doctor, when he showed up at my hearing, the judge said, you don't need to be here. You must have something really important to say. He says, Your Honor, he says, I am very, 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 3 very concerned about Mr. Petrosky because he has this absolutely unrealistic expectation he's going to live. And so when 9 doctors, say that you're going to die and that you're going to take your own life and you got to get used to it, I just was incredulous. I was just like, no. And often I would tell God to, go do all kinds of wonderful things to himself, because I wasn't going to go. I says, you can't have me. I'm not going to die. You can't have me. And I kept on trying. And luckily I ended up meeting this incredible healer. And when I went to him after the second hour, I no longer needed the oxygen. And that's where the arms up in the air is on all my literature. My daughter was 5.5, and she had never known me healthy until she was 5.5. Her whole life I was sick. And so one day we came out of the library, and I didn't need to use my oxygen when we were in the library. And it was the first time that I could go any place that I didn't need to have it. And so she threw her arms up, Daddy, Daddy, no oxygen, no oxygen. And so that's where, that is. And over the years, so what happened is I studied with this Shaolin master. I studied solid for 3.5 years, and another 2 on and off. And during that time, a friend of mine took me to a reservation in Wisconsin. And when we got out of the car, one of the elders called me over. He says, you come here. And he told my friend, he says, you go work, leave your buddy here. And so that began me sitting with the Native American for about once or twice a month for about 3.5 years. And he would just sit with me the majority of the time. And he was very, very empathetic. And I would feel, as he looked at the plants, the rocks, the trees, the animals, I could feel what he was feeling. And that's when the people that had passed away started to show up too. And so since 2001, I've been helping people eliminate really serious pains and illnesses, even the things that people have said are permanent. And then as my intuitive abilities grew and grew and grew, my clients begged me to coach them, and I didn't feel up to it until 2012. I saw the movie The Cure Is, and the first time I saw that, I wrote feverishly for 10 pages, and the second time 8, and the third 2. And I had my first coaching program. And I've been coaching since 2012, because when I don't look unless people ask, but I can read everybody. I can see your greatest gifts, your talents, why you're here. And then I can see the blocks that you have as well. And so with that intuitive ability, the coaching is pretty amazing, goes pretty quick. And people love it. And I always let people name my stuff. And so wisdom, wellness, and wealth is what, because we have to be wise to the subconscious, how it's ruling our lives, how it's ruining our lives. And we have to be wise enough to write something stronger than that to put in its place. And the wellness is everybody feels physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthier and happier. And then the wealth is since 2012, every single one of my clients has had financial gain, whether it's bonuses, careers, incredible deals on houses, cars, that kind of stuff. So that's me.
Okay, so I have questions before they fly out of my head. Okay, so it sounds like if somebody wants to come to you, they could have a serious health issue that they, would like to clear, so that they'd make us. Would that be, or somebody says, hey, I just want to know what expand on my gifts and what you see and how we can work on that. So that sounds like 2 different areas there that they could come to you for.
Sure, yes, yeah. Totally.
And then if somebody has a health issue, would you consider that coaching, or do you do a series of healing modalities on them, or what is that?
It really depends. A lot of issues can be cleared in 1 or 2 sessions, which blows people's minds. They can't even believe that that's the truth. But a lot of issues. So if people have, I've been having back pain, they want to do surgery. I have knee pain, they want to do surgery. I've had allergies or migraines. Very often, those things can be cleared in a session, maybe 2 sessions. If it's something that goes beyond a session or 2, that's when I tell them that, let's coach, because there's some things that you really need to learn. You need to understand what's, holding you back. And then we can do the clearing within that, in the coaching process. But yeah, a lot of it can be, just 1 or 2 sessions.
Now the coaching may be because they got the illness, or not got, but they are experiencing these health issues because maybe self-love is not there, or there's anger or some things. Is that what you're coaching them and looking in what may have brought it on?
Yeah. But usually it's the subconscious, and the subconscious is literally, we don't know what the subconscious is. The subconscious is, they talk about it in, for example, in this movie, The Cure Is, that 95% of our brain is subconscious. 95% of our, how we make decisions is subconscious. And we don't know what that language is. And so when people say, oh, just think positive, just do your affirmations and you'll be fine, and it's like, That's my biggest admonishment. Well, my biggest admonishment when somebody's got it wrong is I might do,
Oh.
because I don't believe in shame or blame, but I do let people know when they're misguided or misthinking, and so people that need more, with the coaching to get rid of the illnesses, yeah, they probably have something from a lot of, either verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. And so we need to clear that. Otherwise, what may happen is I might get rid of, the allergies and the migraine, but then something else might come in its place. And so, like I say, very, very often physical issues can go in one or two. But if not, then I have to say it's like, I'll work like this, but I really suggest that we do some coaching. And
There's also people that I've come across, like I'm a boundary coach. I have a program, and I did coach a couple of women who, well, it was interesting in these conversations with a lot of women that I have, also being a matchmaker and talking to, dozens. And I mean, every week I'm interviewing women for the database, and many women, unfortunately, when they were little girls, their mothers were so abusive, at saying, I wish you were never born, because the mothers were not well, but that set them up for picking narcissistic males, or never getting married at all, because, these just bad relationships and bad choices because of that setup from the get-go. So, actually, my coaching did help one woman at 50 years old. We went through everything, and finally she did meet a wonderful man for the first time at 50. She's in a great relationship. Now, that was great, but I can imagine with your work goes even deeper, and, into that subconscious where, because even women, they're not bringing themselves out to shine in business, or even I know two women who refuse to get on a video chat, or they can't be on a Zoom because they don't want to see themselves on the camera. So they put a piece of tape. They can't look. And that's because they were told they're not worth anything, even though they're beautiful women. So,
I've seen that so much, and it's really wild because I've seen women that when they show me their pictures of when they were kids, when they were little girls, they were actually really, really cute. But then the mother says, who do you think you are? It's like, you're uglier than you think you are. I mean, horrible, disgusting things like that. And the girls' bodies and their faces change over that time. And so, it affects greatly. And, whether it's women or men, there was a fellow that I was working with, and this guy, five businesses, and he sold three of them for, millions of dollars. And, so business wise, he can do anything all the time. Relationships, he loses every time. He picks the worst women, and is abused by these women, manipulated by these women, and just to the nth degree. And so when we started talking, he's just like, nah, he just didn't believe it. And so when we went deeper and deeper, he started to see it. And then he started to write about it. And he was like, every single relationship that I've had with a woman, every single one, including my mother, including my sister, has been abusive and disrespectful. And I always end up on the short end. And I feel like I'm not doing it good enough, right enough. And I was like, yeah. And so it's very interesting like that. And, the thing that I see is there's so many women, you've probably seen this. I've given up on men. I don't date anymore, and that kind of thing. It's like, okay, fine. If you truly are at peace with this and you're completely neutral with it, okay, cool. But very often they're not at peace with it. They've convinced themselves, kind of, sort of, maybe not really, that they're okay with this. And people don't understand. They think that life is like Jenga. You can take a block out and take a block out, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
When we come in with such disbeliefs and such anger or resentment or fear about dating or about sexuality or about being accepted, all of a sudden your first, second, even maybe your third chakra are completely, it's like, okay, well, let's try to do it. I mean, it's a moving target. How are we supposed to be able to accept? How are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to breathe when we're like this?
Mm.
And people don't understand that. And so there are different things that I'll ask them to test themselves. And I was like, okay, so when you say this, what do you feel? What do you notice? And it's very interesting when they self-report how they're
Well,
feeling.
I made a lot of it because men are my paying clients for all these years. I've been matchmaking for 23 years. Now we are taking a few women on as paying clients, but a lot of the men will say to us, oh, I just picked, like you said, picked so bad. My ex was an alcoholic, or, you know, got involved with
Mhm.
this or drew. And some of times they'll say, I didn't even know it until later. And then she was like drunk or whatever. And it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. And I think a lot of singles, because also women will get involved with men who are verbally abusive and things and stay with them and have kids with them. And it's like, well, I think we probably did see those red flags but we didn't want to, or it may have not been as bad too, of course, but right.
Yeah, or the puzzle pieces fit. There was a part of them that was accepting that broken, jaggedy piece,
Yeah.
and they couldn't see it; they didn't know it. And it's also something that I tell people to cut themselves a break, because most of us go out there and look, and we see the best. It's like, oh,
Yes.
she could be so amazing. She could be so wonderful. If she knew me, then she could trust me. And
Right,
it's like,
right, right.
there's a guy that I'm working with right now. Like, dude, I'm like, stop. Because if she trusted you, she wouldn't have done this, and she wouldn't have done this, and she
Oh.
wouldn't have done that. And I said, if you go on a date, or if you call her and talk to her, I said, this is what's going to happen. And I says, if it does, be careful. End the date quickly. And so he called me up and he says, I'm glad you told me.
Mhm. So
And
also, do you have did you leave the body at all? Did you have a near-death experience at some
how
time?
many?
Okay, so you did, and
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's brings in is the ability, because you've pierced that veil, you've gone there, and then you come back and you're able to have that intuition, talk, do the mediumship, do the psychic stuff, right?
Yeah, and even when I was ill, there was so many times that I was in an completely altered state because of how my brain was, and I wasn't really here, I wasn't really there, and yeah, but it was really wild too, because I didn't know to the level of my gifts, and my teacher, both of them actually. Luckily, he had me go out and he said, open yourself up, and he showed me how to do it and everything like that. And I could read everybody. I could see literally what it was, is I could almost see a list, or I could see the people that had tarnished them, had, made their life difficult, just like that. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't, I can't do this. Because if you will, when I would go into a group, it would be like there was 100 radio stations all at the same volume, just like, whoo, and it drove me nuts. And he said, we had to have you feel in order to be able to see. Now we want to have you see without feeling. And so now I can see without feeling.
And so if someone comes to you and they have a lot of grief, maybe their parent died or their spouse or child or something, and if they come to you too, you could probably do some sessions to connect with those loved ones and let them know that everything's okay, because sometimes we have guilt. Maybe we said something we regret.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was talking with you about, the mediumship. When I work with people, very, very often I can feel the flavor of it. And so I'll say, this is what's coming through. And occasionally I'll be able to have the relative, and the relative will come in, or the loved one will come in, and they'll give very, very specific things. But most of the time what will happen is I'll feel what's going on, and I'll be able to say, this is what they're feeling guilty about, this is what they want to apologize for. But occasionally the exact words will come, or the exact scenes that will come. And because there was like a girl, she was 47. 47 when she came in, but her dad wanted to address her to when she was 9 years old. And when she was 9 years old, her dad was a raging alcoholic, and this girl thought it would be funny to bite the ears off of her dad's chocolate Easter bunny. And when she did that, her dad ripped her arm out of the socket.
Oh.
And so when she was 47, 6 months after her father died, she ended up developing this really horrifically painful shoulder, and they couldn't figure it out. And so when her father came through, he said, yeah, he says, tell her that I was only nice for the last 13 years of her life, that most of her life I was a jackass. And then he told me about the Easter Bunny. And so, yes, things like that will come through sometimes.
So now then when she realized that, then it was healed? Did it heal?
Totally.
Just knowing the knowledge of that.
Yeah.
So if somebody does come to you for a session at a mediumship, you can always do it, right? Bring through the medium. If they say, I want to do a mediumship, I want to clear up some things with past loved ones.
If they want to, yeah. And it's interesting, because I went, and I was watching a friend go through an experience that she had paid for with a medium. And I was looking, and I could actually feel more of what her mother was saying than what the guy was bringing forward.
Yes.
So, yeah. And it's something also I would encourage you. You probably do this actually with your matchmaking, because when friends will come up to me and it's like, hey, I'm going to go on a date, and it's like, I can feel everything about that person already. I can feel exactly what they're like, and if it'll be a match and if it won't be a match. And so when somebody dials in, the most difficult things are, is like, when somebody calls in and say, hey, I'm calling about my niece. My niece was in a really bad car accident. And so what happens is I can feel the niece's energy, but then I can feel the aunt's, loving energy and everything like that. And sometimes what ends up happening, it gets kind of blurry. So what I'll do is like, hey, is there any possibility for me to talk to the niece? And if not, then I'll say, it's like, okay, I need you to get really, really calm. I says, do me a favor, look at a plant, look at a tree, look at something for a little bit, because I want to dial into your niece and just your niece. Okay. And so they'll look at something, and then I will be able to get a clearer picture. But if somebody, like a mother, for example, my son's got cancer, can you help him? The mom's like, yeah, we can do this, but the boy, he might be, hey, I'm done. I'm sick and tired of this. I don't want to fight anymore. And so that's something where I'll say, have them call me so I can feel just their energy, because that rah energy, they can live, they can fight, that actually comes in and sometimes blurs it. And so when I can talk to the individual, then I can tell instantly whether I can help them or not.
Oh, interesting. So that's almost like, if somebody says, hey, when do people say, when am I going to meet my soulmate? Who is it? Because, tell me a little bit about that. They probably want you to do kind of fortune telling, because when I give readings, like I'm on a couple of psychic hotlines, and I don't like this. That's why I don't go on there very often. Usually the question from women is he, I just met somebody. Is he thinking about me? What is he thinking about me? Is he going to call me? Is he going to call me Saturday? We got a divorce. He's married to someone else, but I want to know what's going on over there. Is he going to leave her? Is he cheating on her? I mean, all these lower chakra questions that I can't answer because I'm not that kind of a psychic. I don't have that capability, and it doesn't feel good. And it doesn't help them to say, yeah, he's going to call you next week. That doesn't mean this is the right guy for you, or that it's going to go relationship or anything. But we want that as women a lot of times, especially younger. But I've seen it in some of the older. We want that. Oh, did he like me? Is he going to call? He texted me. Oh my, that kind of.
Oh my God. Yeah. There's a woman, and again, very accomplished, successful businesswoman. And she goes, hey, can you dial into the relationship that I'm in? And it's like, I'm just like, she goes, well, she goes, I'm thinking I'm sabotaging it. And I think and I'm just like, well, there's a possibility that he's just not really the right one. And I said, because when there's this going on or this going on or that going on, I says, is he really there for you? Mm-hmm. And, and they kind of start to conjure up and hurry up and slap a coat of paint on them and, or put a new suit on them. And so, yeah, I don't like doing that either. And when they say, well, what about this or what about that? I'm like, okay, is it truly in your highest good to ask the question? Let's just go back to that. Is it in your highest good to ask the question? Well, I'm like, no, that's not it. Is it in your highest good to ask the question? Well, it's like, okay, well, you can feel that it's not in your highest good to ask a question. So let's not do that. Let's get you. And this is the part where if somebody's doing that, I'm like, hey, we got to coach you so you can feel strong. So you can feel confident, so you can feel beautiful, and you can feel safe, and you can feel that you're really worthy of good stuff. And it's interesting because how they start to argue then about how they're worthy of good stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. You're worthy of good stuff. And the last 5 relationships you've had have been with the same kind of jerk, the same kind of narcissist, the same kind of cheater, and you're worthy of good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, somebody's convinced it. It's not you, but somebody. And I'm respectful as I can be, but sometimes you have to really ask the question. It's like, if you're really worthy of good stuff, how come the last 5 guys you've dated are dogs? Because something in your system basically says you're worthy of dogs.
Yeah,
You're
and
not
instead of and we'll tend to blame those people. Oh, just jerks. All there are jerks out there. But the women or what the person is picking these or attracting the frequency, right? Coming in. It's instead of saying
Yeah.
and also when they call, a woman will call and say, I want to know if my boyfriend's cheating or is my husband cheating. But if you have to ask, there's something's very wrong. I mean, if you would even have to call, oh, I got to pay money to find out that, then.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because it's like, okay, cool. Let's go back to, what's your vibe? Because even in The Secret they talk about this, which is really cool. Because there was a husband and wife, and he's the worst husband. He's just a jackass. He's a horrible, he's this. And so she was challenged. It's like, what if you think for the next 30 days that he's the best husband he could be, that he's the most wonderful husband that he could be? Just think that. Don't say anything to him at all, but just think that, and put on the calendar in 30 days my decision date, that I stay or that I get a divorce. Okay. And so this woman, she thinks about it, and all of a sudden she's like, wow, he's really, really, really changed. And so then the husband comes and says, honey, it's like, you're different. And she goes, what do you mean? It's like, well, I was going to get divorced, but I just said, give it a couple of weeks. And over the last, month, you've really, really changed, and you've become really, really nice, and you've become really, really awesome. And I'm really, really happy now. Mm-hmm. But it's like, what changed? And so they talked, and they said, I decided to see the good in you. And that's something where you and I got to be, I think, really careful, because what will happen is when a woman is in an abusive relationship, she's going to say, oh, yeah, it's really, really rusty armor, but I think there's a shiny part there someplace, And
if somebody's getting beat up or hit or anything, leave. This is a different situation.
Yeah. Even when it's the gaslighting and stuff like that. Because that's something that I work with a lot of women that are very, very well to do. They're successful in business, or she and their husband, created a successful business, and she's helped the husband, and they've created this empire. But the guy ends up being, once they got the money, he's become a jerk. He looks at every woman that comes across. He flirts with every woman that comes across. He may not actually cheat with her, but it's like, okay, so what's the sex feel like? Yeah. The sex feels mechanical. The sex feels, and I said, yeah, it feels like he's getting off, but he's not doing much for you.
Yeah.
And when that kind of stuff happens, it's like, hey, do you feel admired? Do you feel adored? Do you feel cherished? Do you feel the interest? And if you don't feel those, it doesn't matter if he's having sex with somebody else. You don't matter. So you got to talk and redo this relationship, or realize that you deserve something else. And that's the part where I've worked with lots of couples where you would think there's no chance in heck that they'll ever be able to save this relationship. But they come together and they do, and it's better than ever. But it's also something where I've worked with lots and lots of women where they're gonna lose their lifestyle, so they think, and it's just like, well, okay, so you can't get 10 new purses in a year, or you can't go on 10 week-long trips in a year, but you maybe go on 5, or something like that. But you're happy when you're sitting by the pool, or on the veranda, all by yourself, on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning. You feel happy. You feel at peace. That's what you want,
Peace is priceless. I always say that. Peace is priceless. It's not worth it. And we do get very attached. It's very hard to, I've been divorced, and a couple of times. I started early, and I'm older than maybe you might think. So I've had a long time there. So, and it's very, very painful. Even if the person is, this is wrong, they're treating me like crap. It's just so hard to let go, because humans don't want change. We're used, well, this is my apartment, my house. We got a dog together. I know his parents, and it's really hard to do it. And then I remember at one relationship, it was a 7-year marriage years and years ago. And after we finally split up, and I was like, a couple weeks later, I was like, why didn't I do this years ago? I am so at peace. And then I was an actor at the time. I booked 2 TV commercials at the same week. I got a job. It was like, whereas everything was so stuck before because I was so miserable. But once I was like free of that constant, arguing, criticism, all that, things opened up, and it was phenomenal. And I was like, wow, no, it's good.
Yeah, that's the amazing. And because I'll ask women, it's like, okay, what's your desire? Well, I want my kids to be happy, or this. And it's like, okay, you can't say your kids, you can't say your significant other. What is it that you desire? And when they finally come to the understanding of what it is that they truly desire, it blows their mind. And it's wild, because when they finally come to peace, it's like, this is what I desire. Everything in the whole world starts to change. Everything. And everything is more beautiful. Everything is more delicious. Everything is, they didn't know that life could be that good. And that's pretty wild because there's a group of people that I was working with, and, they have their private jets, they have their helicopters, and, all of those kinds of things. And it's just like, when they realize, wow, I never realized life could be this good. And it's pretty neat. I had one woman that I was coaching, and I think one of the best compliments I ever got is she had 2 sons that were adopted, 15 and 16, and they had gone on this vacation to Sun Valley, Utah, which is where the butlers will bring out the hot chocolate to you. They'll bring out your heated ski boots. It's very, very very elite, and so very high quality, a very expensive vacation. And that's what these kids were used to. They said, Mom, who's this Joe guy? And because they could see on the calendar every Wednesday that she worked with Joe. And she goes, well, why? And the boys looked at each other, and it's like the one gave the nod. He says, well, Mom, whatever it is, keep doing it. This is the first vacation in years that we've actually enjoyed being with you.
Oh my God.
Like, wow. So yeah. So
you're doing such great work in the world. That is so amazing. And you probably feel like everything you went through, I don't know, how do you feel? Do you feel like it was all worth it, all that pain, because of the amazing, you're making such a difference in so many people's lives, and you're loving what you're doing?
Well, with everything that I've gone through, and we haven't even touched on most of it, because the life that I lived, it was, I was beat at home, I was beat at school, and locked in closets and all kinds of shit like that.
Oh, that childhood, in that.
So when people come to me and they say, well, I've had this, I've had that, it's like, yeah, I understand, I get it. So there's very, very little that a client could come to me and say, I've experienced this, and that I would say, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never experienced that. So with that, it's really, really helpful. And one of my biggest things is actually working with some people, is that I want to get people to understand that this kind of energy healing is really, really possible. That there's hundreds of thousands of people out there like me. Unfortunately, there's millions out there that have been certified energy healers in a weekend or 2 or 3. And I tell people, it's like, okay, you can't learn how to salsa dance in a weekend or 2. You can't learn how to play the flute in 2 or 3 weekends. No. You certainly can't do energy healing, in 2 or 3 weekends. And so, but I want people to understand that there are lots of healers like me out there that can help people, and that you don't have to put up with it. I've had, thousands of people that have been told that this is permanent. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh, anything else you'd like to say?
And what about people who've maybe had cancer and did some radical, treatments and stuff, and then kind of some things had reemerged and come back? have you cleared, I mean, I know you're not supposed to claim things, but have you had good results with some people clearing things like as serious as that?
Yeah, and that's the thing where I can't do jack. The only people that can do that are doctors.
Right.
You're professional medical people. I just get rid of the symptoms.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I can do is get rid of the symptoms. And but yeah, I've helped people with some really horrible, tragic things. But it's also something where cancer is typically kind of like a foreclosure notice. You've gotten a notice that you got to do something. You got notice you're late. The bank wants to talk to you, and this other kind of stuff. And after all that, then the sheriff's sale, and then you're foreclosed. And so cancer is sometimes like that, where there was a warning about this, a warning about that. But that's a lot of times that's not the case, and unfortunately, since COVID and the shots, it's definitely not the case. People in their 20s and 30s are popping up with, cancer that you don't typically see until later in life. And so a lot of times with that, I'll coach, but, it's also something where we can help eliminate it. And it's something where you got to really trust your own intuition. You got to be able to trust your own guidance, and because things can happen. And I look at Einstein. Einstein says that there's two ways to look at life. One is that nothing in life is a miracle, and two is that everything in life. And so, if you look at it, nothing in life is a miracle. Well, how on earth can I talk to you and everything like that and see you in full color? That's a miracle.
Yes.
How can we have 2,000 songs on this, or how can I take a picture and send it to you instantaneously? That's a miracle.
Yeah.
But if it's not, all the magic that's held in this is possible. All the magic that's held in between this Zoom call is possible.
Right.
And it's the same thing. I mean, I look at it, there's no way that I could see a single thing about anybody unless we're all connected, unless we're all one. And so that's a thing where, and when I work, I just set out the prayer and intention to see what I need to see, hear what I need to hear, and feel what I need to feel, and only say the words that the client needs to hear. And sometimes, miraculous things happen. Sometimes I refer, out to other, healers, other people, or tell them, they can do this, they can do that. And, because, nothing is 100% of the time, nothing that I know of, except, creator himself, or creator's creator self,
Oh my gosh.
know him or her. Yeah.
Well, Joe, this has been such a fascinating conversation. We'll have to continue it and do a part 2. Thank you so much. I'm going to put all you guys, Joe's links are below, and his website's flashing on the screen, and you can connect with him, and also leave some comments about your relationships. Do you need help? What's going on with you? We want to have a conversation in the comments. So sending you much love. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, and take care, everybody. And, I like to tell people, it's like every single one of us was born a magnificent miracle, and we still are, and we still get to feel that. So, okay. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.